UFC Shanghai is this weekend, my boys, and honestly, it's a solidly good fight night. We got a lot to look forward to here. For me and the fellow Americans, we got to wake up at the ass crack of dawn, but I feel like it's going to be worth it here. And unfortunately, the only downside to this is that September, there is no pay-per-view. So this is kind of the start of the back-to-back-to-back fight night after fight night after fight night. But all of them are looking pretty good, at least we can hope, okay? And this one specifically, it's got a solid main event, a solid main card, and some solid prelims. And unfortunately for 319, for as good as the card was, I choked on predictions. Genuinely my worst predictions of the entire year. I flopped in the main event pretty hard. My heart is broken still over DDP, okay? Nobody let me leave the house, please, okay? But genuinely, today we're trying to bounce back. Today's my full card predictions and breakdown for UFC Shanghai. Let's try and get some wins back, okay? Let's try and fix the prediction ratio here. Starting off with the first one we got, and I'm sorry for all the names that I'm about to botch in this video, okay? I apologize, but Satyvaldiev versus, I actually did pretty decent with that one, versus Nurgozhay, okay? He's the slight underdog here, and he's going to be my prediction to win this one. I'm going with Nurgozhay. Okay, I'm kind of hit and miss with the pronunciation, okay? I'm sorry, okay? But he's coming from Kazakhstan, and he's going to be my prediction here to get this one done. Now, both of these guys, I feel like, haven't shown off everything in their arsenal in the UFC yet, because good records on paper, 8-1 and 10-1. These guys are solid prospects to invest in, but ultimately they came up short in their UFC debut. When it came to stepping up to that more elite level, these guys just both came up short pretty convincingly both times. You had Nurgozhay losing to Brenton Ribeiro via submission, okay? The crafty submission, and I just feel like that's not too good of a look, because Ribeiro, he's not S tier, A tier, or B tier in terms of his grappling for the light heavyweight division specifically, or especially, I should say. So it's a bit of a rough loss. He had a good knockout on the Contender Series before that, though, but doesn't exactly count towards your UFC record. So he's 0-1. And then you got Satyvaldiev, okay? I feel like I'm just saying Shitty Baldiev, or whatever the Shitty Ball guy, whatever the fuck. I feel like I'm botching the name, but Satyvaldiev, he got fucked up by Martin Buday, who recently just got released. I know that he won most of his fights in the UFC. There's nothing really wrong with losing to Buday, but it is a rough blobby decision. It was a pretty dull fight, and ultimately he just got pieced up and failed takedowns, and even though he stuffed the ones coming in from Buday, it wasn't like he was fucking spamming for his life to get the fight to the ground. So he's 0-1 in the UFC as well. So both of these guys are impressive on paper, but their only losses and their records combined come from their only UFC debuts. So I just feel like both these guys, they're going to be looking to make a statement. They want to get back in the win column, and they are primarily finishers. Don't be deceived by their debuts, because they do have a lot of finishes. Mostly on the feet, they do have solid pop behind their shots, primarily known a bit more for their knockouts above anything, but they still know how to mix up with the submission here and there. They know how to go to the judges' scorecards here and there, but I just feel like Nurgozhay is just the more explosive and athletic fighter, and I think that even though he can kind of struggle against solid enough grapplers, or even though if it's a technical striking battle, a bit of a chess match, I think that he can struggle in that environment. But ultimately, I think that even though I could see him struggling with that, and maybe the reach and height advantage of Satyvaldiev, I feel like ultimately he'll be able to put a heavy pressure on him, force heavy combinations, and I could see him getting it done via a round 2 knockout. Now again, Satyvaldiev, he's got the reach and height advantage, and I feel like if he utilizes that and really tries to keep Nurgozhay off balance and really try and land the better shots to the point to where he's getting the fucking knockout, because both these guys I feel like hit around a similar power level, I could see him getting that done as well. So ultimately, there's a reason why the betting odds are so close. We got finisher versus finisher, but they're both 0-1 in the UFC, but I'm going with the slight underdog from Kazakhstan to get this one done, okay? Moving on, I'm next to Zhao Long versus Su Young Yu, and I'm going with you, okay? My prediction is you. Yes, you, all right? He's 2-0 in the UFC, and I feel like we got a lot of guys on this card ultimately where they have a lot of road to UFC experience, okay? And these guys in the road to UFC series, they are ultimately winning, and that's a reason why they're ending up here in the grandest stage of them all, the UFC Shanghai card. But ultimately, when they actually get to the UFC, they're kind of going 1-1 or 0-3 or 1-2, whatever, but they seem to be kind of losing a lot of the time. But Yu is one of the guys that, Yu is one of the guys that he's actually kind of on an upwards winning trajectory. He's 2-0 in the UFC. He seems to be the more well-rounded fighter in this matchup specifically. He fights more active as well, and even though he is older, he's only 29 years old, so he's right there entering his prime. And on the contrary, Long does have the height and reach advantage, and he has overall a bit more of experience. He's got a good variety of submissions and knockouts on his record, so the guy is solidly well-rounded, but I just feel like Yu is who I see as the technically better fighter here. He's got better wins, in my opinion. He's more consistent, more active along with it, and even though he does have less finishing ability, I feel like he still has solid striking, and he has the much more accurate takedown, so I think that Yu's going to be able to control the pace kind of control where the fight goes. And even though Long does have a chance to win here, the betting odds are very close. Ultimately, I'm going to be going with you. I think if anyone's going to favor this fight being a striking battle, it's going to be Long. He has the higher output, and he seems just a little bit more comfortable on the feet, but I feel like if anyone's going to be the more, technically more sound fighter, I think it's going to be you. I feel like if anyone's going to be able to utilize the wrestling a bit more, be a little bit more accurate with the strikes, be a lot more accurate with the takedowns, it is going to be you, because even though he is less powerful, even though that he can be outpointed in moments, I think ultimately he'll be able to push the fight forward in all regards, and hopefully, I see a 29-28 coming from Su Young Yu here, okay? Moving on up next to the biggest favorite on the card by a goddamn mile, okay? It's Yizha. I'm sorry if I botched the name. It's Yizha versus Weston Wilson, okay? Weston Wilson is a massive underdog, and I'm not going to be picking him to win, but I don't think he should be this big of a dog, man. I think he has a genuine shot, but my prediction here is going to be Yizha to get this one done. He's 0-2 in the UFC, but I feel like there is a reason why he's a massive favorite. He was 5-0 in the road to the UFC series, and he's a technically pretty sound fighter. He's a solid striker, and he seems to be very comfortable hanging in a dogfight scenario, okay? He's comfortable getting in the pocket. He does have a lot of submissions on his record, but as of late, we really haven't seen much from it, so primarily, he's been kind of turned into a bit of a striker here. He does have the crowd advantage here, okay? You got West and motherfucking Willis. Represent the U.S., okay? I'm saluting my Ben Askren throw to you, but ultimately, Yizha's got the hometown crowd advantage, and I think that I'm going to lean towards his striking to be better here. There's not much that really stands out in this game, ultimately, when I'm looking at this guy compared to, like, ranked opponents, but compared to Weston Wilson, who has a shit ton of losses, and ultimately, there's not a lot in his skill set to where, yes, I think he's got a real shot to win here, but there's a reason why. He is ultimately a massive underdog. I don't think he's going to be able to get this one done. Yizha, though, I am going to be going with him to get this one done. I see a 29-28 decision, maybe some kind of round 2 or 3 finish here, but ultimately there are things to be concerned about, because I feel like you could argue that Wilson, he does have the grappling advantage here, and Yizha, he doesn't exactly do great against opponents, especially larger ones who kind of force the grappling exchanges, especially earlier on, but Wilson, man, yes, he got knocked out by Gene Silva, and yes, he got knocked out by Joe Anderson Brito, but those people forget, man, those are solid guys to be fucking losing to, so I don't know if Yizha has the same power or finishing ability on the feet as a Gene Silva, and I don't know if he's as technically well-rounded as a Joe Anderson Brito, but ultimately Wilson, he's just the older fighter, the slower fighter. He just fucking escaped from his prime, okay? And ultimately, he does have the clear height and reach advantage, but I feel like he's pretty inaccurate with his takedowns. His best shot of winning this fight, I feel like, is to be able to mix it up on the ground, and I think that Yizha's takedown defense is going to be able to hold up, and I feel like even though Wilson, his better shot of winning this fight, in my opinion, is going to be trying mixing this one up to the ground, I just ultimately think he's chinny enough as it is already, and his striking isn't all that. He lacks pop behind his shots, and I just think that Yizha is the more promising striker. I feel like he's going to be able to piece him up, keep him at bay, and prevent him from doing anything serious to him on the ground. Maybe some kind of finish here, but ultimately, a late TKO or decision is what I'm going to be going with for Yizha. You usually see with these massive fucking favorites on these cards, most of the time they're winning. Here and there, you get a Peyton fucking Talbot who ends up choking all of our parlays, but most of the time when these guys are cracking an over minus 1,000 favorite, okay, unless you're fucking Bo Nickel, even he's winning when he's that big of a favorite. So it's a pretty safe kind of lock here, even if you're just looking at it statistically, okay? Moving on up next to the fall from grace, we got Michel Pereira versus Kyle Daukaus. My prediction here is going to be Michel Pereira. I mean, this guy, I believe it was last October, was fighting Fluffy Hernandez for a fight night main event. It was like whoever was going to win this fight night was going to be able to, I'm fucking sorry there, but whoever was going to win this fight night was going to go on to do great things for the division. They're going to go on to be the next future champion, the next guy in the top 5. And Fluffy Hernandez is so close to doing that. He just got booked versus RDR. Very excited for that, by the way. So it goes to show that it really was right. The premonitions of Pereira versus Fluffy. Whoever wins this fight's going to go on to do great things for the division. Fluffy is doing that, and Pereira, after that, man, he got ragdolled by Fluffy every single round. He barely had a fucking moment in that fight, besides a couple in the first. Ultimately, it was fucking domination from Fluffy. And then against Abus Magomedov, man, it was a rough performance from Pereira. He barely threw any output in the first 2 rounds. And then in the 3rd round, he finally decided to get going. Sorry. And it just wasn't enough, man. He lacked the kind of necessary pop behind his shots to be able to really rock Magomedov. And it seemed like even though Pereira was being so much more patient and technical and just really off the fucking gas pedal than we're used to, he still just came up short, and he was still somehow a bit tired to where he just really couldn't follow up devastating with any combinations in that 3rd round against Magomedov. Magomedov in that fight, he is a well-rounded fighter. He does kind of deserve to be in that borderline of the rankings, but I don't think skill-wise he's all fucking that to the point to where he's going life and death with Michel Pereira. Michel Pereira might be the more powerful fighter. He might be the more technical fighter, but ultimately, man, just the low fight IQ in that fight and just not getting the fuck after it, throwing very low output, very low fight IQ, and a lack of activity cost him the fight, and now he's here facing Kyle Daukaus, who I believe got cut from the UFC, and now he's bouncing back. He got a couple of wins on the regional scene, and now he's fucking back. He's the brother of Chris Daukaus, the iconic Daukaus brothers, more powerful than fucking Thanos and the other timeline of Thanos himself. So here he is, man. He's a plus 210 underdog. He definitely has a solid shot at getting it done, but I feel like he is a bit of a cannon, even though I love the story. Hey, he came back to the UFC and he got a few wins outside. I'm not going to say it's going to be like a Chris Mutino situation, but I feel like Michel Pereira does fucking excellent against jobbers. He does excellent against jabronis, and I feel like that this is not necessarily a layup for him because I could see him winning, but ultimately, I feel like Michel Pereira, I think he's going to be too explosive, too athletic, too quick in here, and this is just such a step down in competition and a winnable fight for him to where Daukaus, he can be finished, he can get cracked, and there's not a lot in his skill set that really stands out, especially compared to like the UFC level. Now, I do think that Daukaus, he is long and rangy, he's got solid grappling, and he's got a fucking crafty submission game. He's good at controlling his opponents, and Michel Pereira, he's solidly well-rounded, but his grappling is, I feel like, a lot weaker than his striking. So honestly, if Daukaus wants to mix this one up, maybe even stink it up, whoever the fuck knows on the ground, I feel like that's going to be his path to victory here. But ultimately, I feel like his striking just isn't too great. I feel like he's very hittable. He's got a lot more, how should I say, he's got methodical offense compared to the explosive offense from Michel Pereira. So I think that his power and athleticism is going to be too much. I say Pereira might start a little bit slow. He's not going to fucking go completely fucking crazy, some mob psycho shit, and kind of going a little bit too reckless like how he did against the early jobbers on that almost 10 fight win streak that he had, but he's not going to be as patient on the back foot as he was against a Magomedov. So ultimately, I'm going to be going with Pereira, doing solid in the first round, but ultimately taking over in the second, and I think he's going to be able to finish Daukaus, even though he's got the reach advantage, and even though he's got the wrestling advantage, maybe, and I love that he got back to the UFC. I just think that Pereira, I don't think he's ever going to get in the top 10, but I feel like that this is a very winnable matchup for him. He's very explosive, he's got very good spinning attacks, flying knees, he's willing to throw a fucking atom bomb at somebody, he's very unorthodox and powerful on the feet, and I feel like that this is a bit of a favorable matchup for him. I could see him somehow fucking choking this one and losing. That's why I'm never going to call Michel Pereira exactly a fucking lock, but ultimately I think this is a winnable fight for him. I say round 2 knockout, okay? Moving on, I'm next to Rongzhu versus Austin Hubbard, and I'm going to be going with Rongzhu for this one, okay? I don't believe he's fought since his Fight of the Year candidate against Cody Steele, and that was a fucking banger. Absolutely loved that fight. That was one of the early prelim gems, and unfortunately it was on a stinker of a fucking card that was UFC 312, but that was a fucking banger. He was going against Cody Steele, who was undefeated at the time, and Rongzhu, I believe, was the underdog going into that one, and you could argue that Cody Steele didn't utilize any of the wrestling that got him to the fucking dance, and that's why he lost, but I don't give a fuck, okay? I don't give a shit. I'm going to call Rongzhu was the much more experienced fighter, and he was the better striker that night, okay? And he won that fucking dogfight. One of the better fights, one of the best fucking fights of this year, and I feel like that Rongzhu, he's going to be my prediction here. He's a proven striker. He's got heavy leg kicks and body attacks, and I feel like he's got so much fucking experience. He's 26-6 compared to Hubbard's 17-9, to the point to where I feel like he's going to be ultimately able to be comfortably bringing a heavy pressure and pace to this fight, kind of putting Austin Hubbard in a dogfight scenario where I feel like that's going to favor Rongzhu and not exactly favor Austin Hubbard. And even though Rongzhu, he does have durability questions at times, and even though there could be a bit of questions of cardio at times or whatever the fuck, maybe he kind of enters a flow state a little bit too much and then he's eating too many counters, but ultimately I feel like against Austin Hubbard, this is a winnable fucking fight for him. There's a reason why he's a big favorite. I feel like he's going to push the fuck forward, set a very heavy pace, and probably finish Austin Hubbard with some fucking strikes. I see a fucking round 2 KO possibly here. Austin Hubbard, he is alright. He's a solid fighter, but I feel like he's walking in a death's fucking door here, okay? He's not that much of a power threat on the feet. He could struggle against really heavy hitting guys or unconventional strikers, which you could argue Rongzhu is at least one of the fucking 2 here, okay? And if Hubbard, he's gonna have to survive the early fucking storm. Try and mix in the grappling. If there's any path to victory here for Austin Hubbard, I feel like he's got to mix in the grappling, try and grind out a decision, really rack up the control time, because Rongzhu defensively on the ground, I don't think he's all that. It is doable to fucking kind of ragdoll him a bit on the ground or out grapple him if he's going against a high level enough grappler, but I don't know if Austin Hubbard of all motherfuckers is gonna be it, okay? I don't exactly think this guy's gonna be on the White House card. I don't exactly think he's anything to cry home about for America, and I feel like he's going to go 17-10 here. I'm going to say Rongzhu gets kind of a later finish or ultimately a 29-28 decision. I think he's going to be able to piece him the hell up. I think he's the better and faster and more powerful striker, and I think his takedown defense is going to be able to hold up here, okay? I'm going to be going with Rongzhu to win this one. Moving on, I'm next to Loner Kavanagh versus Charles Johnson, and I love this fight. I absolutely love this scrap. I feel like that this one at the very least should be on the main card, but it is what it is, okay? okay? Loner Kavanagh is going to be my prediction here. I'm very fucking tempted to go with Charles Johnson. I'm so goddamn tempted, alright? And I understand he's coming off a very close split decision, or not split decision, but he's coming off a close decision. A lot of people thought he could have won, and he went 4-0 last year. He's only a slight underdog. There's a lot of reasons to go with Charles Johnson, and I haven't even gotten into stylistically this matchup yet, but ultimately, man, my prediction is going to be Loner Kavanagh, okay? I do believe in the hype, and even though that this is a year, 2025, where a lot of fighters have been losing their streaks, their undefeated streaks have been fucking cracked. A lot of people's O's have become ones, okay? And Loner Kavanagh 9-0 and Charles Johnson 17-7. I understand that Johnson has a lot more losses, but that comes with so much more experience, especially at a UFC level. But ultimately, I'm going to be trusting Loner Kavanagh. The guy is a motherfucker, okay? He's very well-rounded. He's 9-0. He's your hardcore's favorite fucking prospect, okay? He's got strong wrestling. He's got good takedown volume, good control on the ground in general as well. And he sets a pretty fucking good pace. He knows how to mix it up. Solid pop behind his shots. And even though he's got a few TKOs, he kind of doesn't have the crazy power, but it is flyweight, okay? Not everybody is a Joshua Van or a fucking Kai Kara France. I know you just got chills down your fucking spine, but you know what I'm saying. Kavanagh does have solid pop behind his shots for flyweight standards. He's able to get a TKO, and he is young. He's only 26, so the power can still develop. The precision can still develop. He's 2-0 in the UFC already, and even though I feel like his wrestling has kind of been what's kind of been leading him mostly to these victories, his striking is good. His striking solid, but his wrestling is efficient enough to where against the current level of opponents, he's been doing very well. But Charles Johnson, it is a step up in competition, man. If there's any weaknesses kind of standing out for Loner Kavanagh here, it is the experience gap, especially at that UFC level, man, because you got a guy like Charles Johnson. People forget, man, he KO'd Joshua Van. He KO'd fucking Joshua Van, who's the #1 contender right now. I feel like Charles Johnson feels like Ricky Simone being that guy at the bar where he's going, I beat Marab. I beat Marab that one time. Maybe that's how Johnson feels, but at the end of the day, he did KO Van in a competitive fight, and he was ranked last year. He did go 4-0. He did have a close decision. That was the only thing that fucking snapped him out of his fucking spot in the rankings. And I even think right now he might be ranked 15 or whatever. But still, like, he does have a solid amount of losses, but they're not bad losses, especially as of late, man. So Charles Johnson, he does kind of have that grunkle strength to him, okay? He's got that skips from regular show kind of veteran status. He's got a solid Muay Thai base, well-rounded striking. He's got a very high output on the feet, a solid high output on the feet, I guess I should say. And he does well in scrambles, you know what I mean? He's not the guy who's really getting the fuck after it too much on the offensive side of the wrestling, but honestly, defensively, and when he's put in these uncomfortable positions, or when he does get into scrambles with guys, he's pretty fucking good in there, okay? And ultimately, he is durable enough to where he's not exactly getting fucking flatlined, and I don't think that Kavanagh has the power to really flatline Johnson, so ultimately, I feel like Kavanagh's path to victory here is trying to mix it up on the ground with the wrestling as much as you can, and I feel like his striking is solid enough to where you gotta shut down Johnson's. You gotta be able to shut down his striking, because if you let him just do his thing, if you let him control the distance and the range and the pace, and you let him fucking be able to stuff down every takedown that you're shooting at him, and it's just a striking battle, that's gonna play into Charles Johnson's favor, especially as each round goes by. He kind of warms up into the fight a little bit, and I understand that usually he does come up short in decisions, especially when going against someone who's capable of out-grappling him or controlling the pace better, but I feel like Johnson's gonna want to keep this fight standing. Obviously, it's a path to victory here. He's gonna want to utilize the jab and the leg kicks and let his power show and counter enough takedowns to hopefully make Kavanagh start to worry, but man, I gotta trust in Loner Kavanagh. I gotta trust in the youth. I gotta trust in the momentum. I gotta trust in the wrestling prowess and the well-rounded skill set. And ultimately, this is a great fight. It's good matchmaking. I can totally fucking smell a Charles Johnson upset here, but I think Loner Kavanagh is gonna win a competitive 29-28 decision here, okay? Moving on up next to Maheshate. Okay, here we go. I'm about to fuck up this name, okay? Maheshate, mate. Whatever the fuck. All right, Maheshate Hayazir versus Gage Young. My prediction here is going to be Gage Young. I'm going with the very slight favorite in Gage Young. Hayasir, he's 6'0". I don't even care if that's how you say his name. That's how you're going to be able to hear it. I'm sorry, okay? Hayasir, he does have solid height and reach here. He's 6 foot, solid height and reach for the division. He's primarily a boxer, but because he's never fucking landed a takedown in the UFC, and people forget, man, this guy got a KO over Steve Garcia of all things in 2022. But since then, since KOing Steve Garcia and having kind of a promising start to the UFC, he's gone 1-3 since then, okay? He's not too active of a fighter. He's gotten knocked out by Vyacheslav Borshev. Vyacheslav fucking Borshev, and the rest are decisions, okay? He's got solid cardio. He can work a solid pace, but ultimately when I'm looking at these losses and when I'm looking at the skill set being pretty solid, but nothing too fucking crazy, especially at UFC level. I'm going to be trusting in Zhang to get this one done, man, because sometimes Hayashir, man, he could just be too overly patient. He can just kind of struggle in general with guys who have certain attributes like being more explosive, being faster, or just being better at dictating the pace, and I feel like Zhang is a couple of these things, man. He's an aggressive striker. He's got solid power, but ultimately there's not too much to his game. I mean, both these guys are young as fuck. They have a lot of experience to grow, and they don't exactly have the most fucking experience. I mean, Maheshate, whatever the fuck Hayas there, he's 10-4, and Zhang is 9-3. So both these guys are only 25. They have a lot to fucking learn and grow, okay? And even though Zhang, he might be 0-2 in the UFC, you could argue that at least the other guy, he has some fucking wins, but I'm going to be trusting Zhang to get this one done. I know he got fucked up bad by Killian Salkid, bad on the Contender Series, pretty much in all regards. Pieced up on the feet, ragdolled on the ground. Salkid got like 10 takedowns in on that fight, but then he came back, actual appearance in the UFC, not Contender Series, and he lost a decision to fucking Evan Elder, which isn't too bad, but I just feel Young, even though despite being 0-2, he is the scrappier fighter. I feel like he has better power. I feel like he's got a solid pressure game. And I feel like he'll have to close the distance early and kind of drag Hayasir into wild exchanges in deeper waters because he's no fucking joke. I understand that he is kind of losing consistently here, but in general, he isn't a bad fighter. So ultimately, not too much to say about this fight, to be honest with you, man. I'm going to be going with Zhang to get this one done. And moving on to Taihalake Nueraji. to open up the main card, Taihalake Nueraji versus Kiefer Crosbie. Jesus Christ, to open up the main card, I'm sorry. This guy calls him Nueraji, I guess I should say. He calls himself the Super Saiyan. That's how I'm going to be referring to him, okay? I can't say this fucking guy's name, and I'm not going to be doing him any justice. He's a massive favorite. He's the Super Saiyan, and even though I'm a Dragon Ball Z fan, I'm going to be going with this guy regardless, okay? I fuck with this guy. I've barely seen this guy fight. I had to kind of do a little bit of research. He hasn't fought yet in the UFC. He's making his debut, but this guy seems like a bad motherfucker, okay? There's a reason why he's a big favorite. I'm not trying to be some fake hardcore, push on my glasses and be like, oh, the Super Saiyan, bro. This guy is going to be the next marauder of the fucking welterweight division. I've barely seen this guy fight. I'm going to keep it real with y'all, but I'm trusting in what I have seen, okay? Because I have actually seen Kiefer Crosbie fight a few times, and I don't think there's exactly anything in his skill set to the point to where I'm going to be fucking confident to where I'm Usopp and I'm yelling to the village about how Kiefer Crosbie is going to bring back Ireland MMA and he's going to be able to put himself on the map and be able to finish Nueraji, the Super Saiyan. I don't see him getting it done. I mean, Jesus Christ, I forgot that Ireland even had any fighters in the UFC right now besides Ian Gary. To be fucking honest, I really did. Kiefer Crosbie, man, he's not the most well-rounded fighter in the world. There's not that much that stands out in his game. He hasn't had too long of a run in the UFC, and he's ultimately come up short most of the fucking time here. I feel like ultimately he's going to be the slower fighter, the less powerful fighter, and I feel like his record shows that he's just more inconsistent. I understand that the other guy, at least he hasn't fought in the UFC yet, so you could argue Crosbie, some of these losses are coming in the UFC, but in general, man, when I'm looking at his overall skill set, I feel like that, yes, he could make this a close quarters fight. Yes, he could just rack up cage control, mix in takedowns, and survive the early storm, and maybe fucking be able to get a win here, but I feel like Nueraji, the Super Saiyan, is going to be too fucking much, okay? He's got an 100% finish rate, most of them by fucking knockout, an 11-1 record, and China could end up with a solid welterweight prospect here. Again, don't know too much about him besides rocking with the fucking nickname, but this guy has a good highlight reel. He's opening up the main card here in his home fucking country, so I see a big statement coming in for him. He's got the clear power advantage here. He seems like the faster, more athletic fighter, and I see a round 1 or 2 KO, okay? Crosbie, he hits solidly fucking hard. He's got some solid fucking finishes, but in general, I feel like the power advantage just seems like night and fucking day here. One seems like just enough to get it done, and the other seems fucking devastating and will change your life if you get cracked by it, okay? So I feel like the Crosbie, he's going to be a bit slower in there. He's going to be a bit less powerful. Maybe he can just kind of drag it out. Again, I don't know too much about the Super Saiyan. Maybe he'll have cardio issues or grappling issues. I don't fucking know, but in general, I'm going to trust in the power. I'm going to trust in the odds makers, and I'm going to trust in the momentum of Nueraji to open up the main card and knock out Kiefer Crosbie, and I say a round 1 or 2 knockout here, okay? Moving on up next to a crafty fucking matchup. We got Sumudaerji versus Kevin Borjas, and I went really back and forth on this one. I actually kind of really didn't know here, but I'm going to be trusting in Sumudaerji to get this one done. I was very tempted to go with Borjas. He's a slight underdog, but I'm going to be trusting ultimately in the chin of Sumudaerji here. He's never been finished on the feet. Even though Borjas, he hits hard like a motherfucker, I feel like it takes either knockout ability to beat Sumudaerji and maybe be the first to crack him, or it takes somebody who's very heavy in the grappling, or at least can kind of mix it up. And Borjas has pretty much absolutely zero grappling. So there's a couple things here. Again, that's why I'm going to be favoring Sumudaerji to get this one done. He's a slight favorite, and even though he's coming off a bit more losses in general, even in his past few fights, I feel like that, again, it takes a heavy grappler or someone who can kind of solidly mix it up to beat Sumudaerji. Sumudaerji, even though Charles Johnson took Sumudaerji to a close decision, and he's not exactly a fucking grappler. He only shot a fucking takedown or two, so how did he win? He did a fucking enough to mix it up, okay? And you could argue maybe if it wasn't for those takedowns, it was a close enough decision that Sumudaerji could have lost. Sumudaerji's ground game kind of holds him fucking back here. He's been submitted multiple times. He can be very susceptible to getting taken fucking down, even by a grappler who's not too fucking great, but Borjas just isn't a grappler at all, man. He's one of these guys where even though he is primarily a striker, I just can't even really see him shooting here unless he's in fucking danger or he's really just coming up short here. Borjas, he's good. He's got good striking. He's arguably got the fucking power advantage here. He's got solidly high output on the feet as well, and he's got solid cardio to back it up, but ultimately, I feel like that this is just going to be a pure striking match, and if that's going to be the case, I'm slightly going to favor Sumudaerji. He's durable. He can hang in a dogfight scenario. Again, he arguably fucking beat Charles Johnson, who I'm rating kind of solidly high here, and he's only really getting fucked up on the ground, which it's a problem that Borjas just isn't going to present, again, unless he's just getting fucked up or things are just going completely out of his way, or it's just one of these fighters who are having a complete transformation. I don't fucking know, but I think it's going to be a high pace from both guys. I think it's going to be high output. It's going to be a scrap. I feel like there's a reason why they put this fight on the main card above some certain other matchups, and I feel like that both these guys aren't going to be afraid to get in the pocket, but I'm going to lean towards a 29-28 competitive decision for Sumudaerji. I feel like this one's going to be close and competitive no matter who wins. Both these guys are pretty similar in skill, and even though Sumudaerji has much more kind of wear and tear, and you could argue just kind of questionable decisions here and there, and he's not the most active fighter, I'm going to be trusting him to have a bit more of that UFC experience and a little bit of the better striking to be able to get this one done via a close decision. I don't think Borjas is going to be able to bring the power necessary to crack Sumudaerji to take him out of there, and I don't think he's going to be able to mix it up on the ground. So I'm going to trust in Sumudaerji. This is going to be a pure striking match here. At least I fucking think so, and I think he's going to win a 29-28, okay? And moving on up next, these are the big three fights of the card. This is what you're probably here for, alright? You got Sergey Pavlovich versus Waldo Cortes-Acosta. This is a fight, man, I really don't fucking know. I've really been going back and forth on this one, but I'm going to be trusting in the plot armor, the motherfucking plot armor of Waldo Cortes-Acosta. This is a pick, and I'm not even going to bullshit y'all, where a solid amount of the reason I'm picking it is the feeling. The gut feeling in the air, or just going with the lore, or just the plot armor of Waldo Cortes-Acosta to actually be the prospect that has broken through the Tybura and Spivak curse. Even though it was arguably a robbery over Sergey Spivak, he's able to fucking get to the dance. He did what he needed to do, beat enough names, and earned a solid enough win streak, and now he's getting a top 5 opponent in Sergey Pavlovich. This guy fought for the fucking belt before, okay? I'm going with Cortes-Acosta to get it done, though. I get that I just said it's a lot of a vibe thing, and it's just a gut feeling thing, and I'm looking at the fucking underdog money, and I might be going with Cortes-Acosta a little bit because of that, okay? He's won me plus money before, alright? And these odds makers are usually putting him as an underdog against Spain, against Spivak, and he keeps on fucking winning. But Pavlovich is dangerous. There's a reason why Pavlovich is the fucking favorite here, man. And kind of by a little bit here, a solid fucking margin. Pavlovich, I feel like if it wasn't for his past few performances looking the way he has, he'd be an even bigger favorite, okay? The past few performances have been very slow paced from him, and just there's been a lot of holes in his game compared to before, because before, when he was on the 6 or 7 fight win streak and he's knocking out everybody within a minute or a round, whatever the fuck it may be, he's slowly moving up the ranks, and then he's getting to the Lewises and the Tuivases and the Aspinalls. Before he got flatlined by Aspinall, this guy was the boogeyman of the division. This guy was being talked about like how people are talking about Aspinall now, okay? He was the fucking boogeyman on the rise, and Aspinall knocked his ass out. It seems like he fucking adjusted a few chromosomes, because ever since then, it just hasn't been the same for Pavlovich. He was getting the fuck after it. He was getting scrapping in the pocket for the 2 minutes that fight lasted, but ultimately, man, when he came back from that and he fought Volkov, I understand that he couldn't close the distance, he couldn't figure out the range, he couldn't lock and land anything clean on Volkov. Volkov, he had trained with them before, he was just too good. He was too fucking elusive on the feet, and Volkov ultimately utilized his solid strike and his solidly well-rounded skill set and his high-level UFC experience, and was able to piece up Pavlovich just to do enough to be able to avoid his biggest shots, avoid getting knocked out. He was able to neutralize him, make him clearly fucking frustrated in there, because Pavlovich afterwards was literally fucking pushing him. He's bitching and complaining on Twitter about how, oh, if you're not a real man, you gotta show up to fight. Well, he just fucking beat you up for 3 rounds. So what the fuck do you mean, okay? So Pavlovich wasn't the best look, and then he comes back against Rosenstruck, actually gets a win, but it was one of the worst fights of this year. It was a heavyweight blobfest. It was one of the very few ranked heavyweight fights we got this year, and it was a stinker, and it was so rough that they literally cut Rosenstruck afterwards. So it was a rough look for Pavlovich, even when he was hurting Rosenstruck, okay? And I understand he kind of took him down a couple of times. Okay, way to fucking go, okay? Pushing up your hardcore glasses. Pavlovich is now well-rounded. I don't fucking think so. I think it was a stinker of a fight, and it wasn't too great of a win. Even when he was hurting Rosenstruck, he wasn't following up with any devastating combinations. I shouldn't even say devastating combinations. Really, he just just wasn't following up, and I feel like that could have cost him a finish. Ultimately, he did enough to win a lot of the rounds, or pretty much every round. He ultimately won that fucking fight, able to maintain a spot in the top 5, but it wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good win. He looked very gun shy. He wasn't throwing too much output in general. It just looked like Aspinall really did adjust the fucking chromosome. So this version of Pavlovich that's been showing up ever since getting knocked out by Aspinall, if that one shows up against Cortes-Acosta, I'm even more confident that Cortes-Acosta is going to win, okay? What makes me hesitate, what makes me realize why Pavlovich is the favorite, okay, and what makes me realize that he's probably gonna he has a really good chance of fucking knocking out Cortes-Acosta is because, man, all it takes is him to gain a little bit of confidence back. Okay, I came up short against Volkov, but now I'm back in the win column. That's all he wanted against Rosenstruck. You could tell by the way he was fighting. He just wanted a way to get back in the win column, and that he did. So now he might be throwing a bit more output, not afraid to get in the fucking pocket, not afraid to get a little scrappy with it, and actually look for a finish, not just getting a safety win, looking back to get in the finish column, because he was consistently doing that to guys, again, before the Aspinall era. It's like a fucking before crisis BC kind of thing, okay? We gotta start saying BA, before Aspinall, for fucking Sergey Pavlovich. Cortes-Acosta, man, he's not going to be into that fucking on the back foot shit, low output shit. Like, the guy is very consistent with how he fights, okay? He kind of mixes it up in the wrestling here and there, and when he's unsuccessful with that, he's fine with just stanging and banging. He's got a very weird, awkward style on the feet, and he doesn't exactly hit too fucking hard, especially for heavyweight standards. Like, yes, he can knock out fucking Ryan Spann, but against a lot of these guys, he's kind of taking them into deep water, it's piecing them up, and it is a bit of a decision fest. Now that he's not capable of having knockouts and not capable of getting fucking scrappy and into the pocket, and the guy does hit solidly hard, but for heavyweight, and especially comparing his power to Pavlovich, I don't think it's as fucking devastating and not as consistent. Pavlovich, you could tell that the reason why he's not getting these knockouts is because he literally is just, he's either getting frustrated in there or he's getting a safety win, whatever it may be. But Cortes-Acosta, he does have high output. He is getting scrappy. He's literally putting a heavy pace on guys, a heavy pressure. He's kind of mixing it up here and there, and he's still not able to really completely flatline guys like Spivak and shit like that. He's borderline losing to guys like that. So there's a lot of reasons why to go to Pavlovich. The clear power advantage. He's probably going to be more comfortable in this fight to where, again, he is comfortable kind of looking for a finish, not just a safety win. And that could be dangerous for Cortes-Acosta. He's only lost once, okay? It is hard to beat him in general. It is hard to finish him, but he can get hit. He's very hittable. He can get fucking rocked, okay? Pavlovich has the power and the explosivity and the fucking Russian blob Drago from Rocky IV kind of build to where he can make Cortes-Acosta go to fucking sleep. But I think Cortes-Acosta is going to be landing the better shots here. I think that Pavlovich, even if he isn't completely fucking gun shy, even if it isn't throwing low output, I think Cortes-Acosta is going to throw high enough output and be able to avoid getting knocked out. I think he's durable enough to where I think he can hang with Pavlovich's biggest shots and avoid getting finished. Now, literally, if Pavlovich was going to go toe-to-toe with him in terms of power, yes, Pavlovich wins all day, every day, but I think that Cortes-Acosta is going to be able to be durable enough and a good enough striker for heavyweight standards, and maybe even mix in the fucking wrestling, I dare say, to the point to where I could see him getting this one done. This is one of these feelings where I don't know how he's specifically going to get it done, but there's something tells me Cortes-Acosta. It's not my smartest pick. Maybe it's fucking not my smartest bet in the world here, okay? But I'm going to be trusting in the plot armor, and I'm going to be trusting in the solid striking. I mean, it is sloppy. Cortes-Acosta, in terms of a heavyweight prospect, to be challenging for Tom Aspinall next, it's not too great of a sell. But I'm going to be trusting the skill set being good enough for these heavyweight standards to crack the top 5, become one of those kind of better names, continue to improve, and utilize the fact that he's already 33, trying to get the fuck after it. I think he's going to maybe be able to beat Pavlovich via a round 3 KO or a fucking 29-28, okay? Yes, I said it. Moving on up next to the co-main event, and I'm really looking forward to this one. It's either going to be a fucking snoozer or it's going to be absolutely very high level and very high paced. Brian Ortega versus Aljamain Sterling. My prediction is going to be Aljamain Sterling. I like this matchup for both guys because 1, high level grappler versus high level grappler. 2, it's 5 fucking rounds. Co-main event, we'd love to see that. And 3, man, it's very winnable for both guys here. I could genuinely really see Ortega getting this one done via some random submission, or maybe because his striking is better and he does have slightly more power. Maybe he is able to efficiently take out Sterling on the feet or something like that. Because again, stylistically, these guys in terms of their grappling, it's very similar. They're very strong on the ground. They're good at racking up control. They're good at finding clean submissions. And ultimately, against a lot of the opponents that they face, a lot of people going into their fights say that they usually have the grappling advantage. So it's interesting to see them actually go against each other here, because a lot of these times it ends up becoming a striking battle. And you could say, oh, well, if it's just going to be a striking battle, I'm going with Brian or fucking Ortega all day, every day. And that's a fair argument, sir. But man, beloved Blubby man's Ortega. This dude is built like Jim from The Office. He's not too active of a fighter, and ultimately I feel like that he's just consistently been coming up short against elite enough competition to where people forget, man, Brian Ortega used to fight for the bell, blah blah blah, the win streak before Holloway, blah blah blah. The guy was on a fucking tear, and yes, he did fucking beat Yair Rodriguez. That's a solid win, but in general, man, I don't think it's gonna be enough to be able to beat Sterling. Sterling, he's slightly more active. I just feel like his heart is more fucking in it. He actually got his hands on the bell. He didn't come up short against the Volks and the Holloways. Very good fucking fighters. Nothing wrong with losing to them. But Ortega in general, it's not like those are the only guys he's losing to. He's also lost to Diego Lopez. There's another fighter in there as well. I'm fucking blanking on. But in general, like, these losses are kind of adding up, and I feel like Sterling is a high-level enough opponent, and his grappling is good enough to where I can really see him controlling Brian Ortega. Ortega's great on the ground, okay? But I feel like Sterling has underrated striking to the point to where, I mean, this guy was piecing up Henry Cejudo. This guy, he was getting kind of pieced up by Movsar Evloev and shit like that, so there are examples of Sterling striking not being the best, but I mean, shit, I'm bringing up the Evloev fight. That, in my opinion, was a very close decision that could have gone to Sterling purely because he got the much better of Evloev in the actual scrambles and in the wrestling exchanges, okay? Sterling was winning the exchanges on the ground in that fight, and I feel like he looked better on the ground, but in terms of the striking, Evloev did enough to piece him up, but then again, that was a 3-rounder. And again, it ultimately could have went to Sterling. I feel like 5 rounds is more time for Sterling to be able to comfortably take this one. Ortega, he does fine in 5-rounders. It's not his first or second or fucking third 5-rounder, okay? He's been in this kind of scenario before. This isn't his first co-main event spot or something like that. But in general, I feel like if it is going to be 5 rounds, it might favor Sterling just because I don't think he's going to be able to get finished on the ground by Ortega, some crafty submission. I feel like his chin is good enough and he's got underrated enough striking to where I don't think Ortega's going to finish him on the feet. Ortega does have solid striking, okay? And he's chinny to where, yes, okay, if he's facing a powerful enough guy or a high output enough striker, he will get knocked down a fuck ton, okay? But I don't think Sterling has the power to do that, but I don't think Ortega has necessarily the power to finish Sterling. Sterling is durable. Sterling has a good chin. Yes, Sean O'Malley, of all people, is fucking finishing him, but that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was a bantamweight. That's one thing, and Sean O'Malley is one of the best strikers in the UFC. Ortega's a solid striker, but I don't think it's going to be enough to flatline Sterling, man. I feel like the striking in this fight is going to be underratedly close. I think that Sterling, again, piecing up Cejudo and shit like that, and there's other examples of his career. You know, he's able to hold his own kind of on the feet with Jan in the striking, in the rematch, and it's just, there are multiple examples of Sterling in his career. I feel like I'm picking all the fucking worst examples for the most part, but in general, I feel like Sterling has underrated striking, and this is a winnable enough opponent to him to where, yes, on paper, they're both very good grapplers, and it could kind of neutralize and become a striking battle, but I don't think that's the case here, man. I think Sterling is going to be able to efficiently control Ortega, okay? And it's not going to be the whole fight. It's not going to be a Chimaev over DDP. It's not going to be 22 minutes of control time for Sterling. Although, yes, I think this one's going the distance. I don't think it's going to be a finish for Sterling. If anybody's getting a finish in this fight, submission or knockout, it's going to be Ortega, okay? So maybe that in that regard, the 5 rounds does favor him. But I think Sterling's grappling is too good. There's a reason why this guy used to be a champion. He has really good fucking cardio. He's training with Merab. You know what I'm fucking saying? Hey, guys, if you ever pick against Aljamain Sterling, I will literally come to your fucking house and mug you, and you are not invited to the Xbox Live party with me and Aljo. Merab and Aljo, okay, best fucking friends. These guys are training together. They're elite, and I understand that Sterling's getting up there in age, reaching a bit of that unk status at 36, but Blobby, man, Ortega, dude, this fat fuck, I shouldn't call him this fat fuck, okay, but literally he's built like Uncle Phil. This dude is 34 years old in his own right, so he's kind of reaching the very tail end of his prime, and the fact that he's not that active of a fighter, I feel like makes the case even worse. So I feel like the striking is underratedly competitive and close for this matchup, and I feel like the grappling, yes, they could neutralize each other, but I feel like Sterling, he's so efficient on the ground. The way he's ragdolling Calvin Kattar, the way he's fucking able to take down and able to kind of control Piotr Jan, who's solidly defensive on the ground. This guy's submitting Corey Sandhagen. Like, Sterling has really good dominant grappling, and in general, the striking's solid enough to hang with Ortega, and I feel like he'll be able to avoid getting finished. He's fucking durable, okay? This ain't no fucking Sean O'Malley, so I'm going to be going with Aljamain Sterling via a 49-46 decision. Ortega will definitely have some moments. I feel like if there's anything that's going to favor him, probably keeping this one on the feet, okay? I know he's good at grappling, but Aljamain Sterling is just, I feel like, a different kind of level of grappler, especially in MMA here, okay? So I'm going to be going Aljamain Sterling via a 49-46 decision. Hopefully we get a fun scrap out of it. Sterling's kind of hit or miss in terms of entertainment, but I did really enjoy the fight against Evloev. So I'm going with Aljamain Sterling to get this one done, okay? A lot of people shit on Aljo, but I kind of rock with him. So moving on to the main event, the coveted main event of this motherfucking event. We got Johnny Walker versus Zhang Min Yang. Now, this is one of these scraps where How is it a main event? Alright, I'll tell you how it's a main event. Yeah, what was the question? Zhang Mingyang? Yeah, we're sending this kid to China against the chinniest fighter on the roster. He's going to be my prediction. I'm going to be going with Zhang Mingyang. This is such a favorable matchup for him. And again, the reason why I'm saying how is this a main event, it's nothing against Zhang Mingyang or Johnny Walker, but it just seems like such a layup and a favorable stylistic matchup for Zhang Mingyang. And Johnny Walker getting his own main event in the big old 2025. I don't think that's the best look, but I get it. Zhang Mingyang in China. You got to fucking give him something here. And ultimately, I do really think that this isn't just for the memes. I don't think it's just Johnny Walker signing up for his fucking death sentence here, or Johnny Walker in Inception, and he's waking up after dream after dream after dream. When will Johnny Walker wake up? I don't know if it's going to be that, okay? But I just ultimately think that Johnny Walker, he could utilize the wrestling in this fight. He might, I dare fucking say, have the grappling advantage, and I'm only saying that because we just don't really know with Zhang Mingyang. He's got a few submissions on his record, but we've actually seen Johnny Walker shoot some fucking takedowns in the UFC. Most of his performances, he's not on the ground, okay? Most of the performances, Johnny Walker is not getting after it offensively in the grappling, but I feel like he's so chinny, and the fact that he's still a light heavyweight, the fact that the power advantage is clearly for Zhang Mingyang, that he's more explosive, more athletic. Zhang Mingyang is so dangerous. He's the Chinese Crimson Chin, and it's just in general, Johnny Walker should be fucking concerned. So yes, even though he's not primarily a grappler, even though he's not even on a side gig a fucking grappler, that might be his chance to fucking get a win here, because Zhang Mingyang, especially at the UFC level, he's untested on the ground. His power is insane. His explosivity is insane. Again, there's a reason why he's the Chinese Crimson Chin. He's blowing through fucking everybody, okay? Round 1, round 2, round 1, whatever the fuck it may be. The power in his hands is something different. You look at that 19-6 record, and it's not anything too crazy, but man, this guy is one of the most under the radar, or I guess I should say underrated prospects, pound for pound in the entire fucking UFC, okay? Any weight class here. And I think that this is going to be his coming out party. Johnny Walker's going to be his gateway into the top 10. And maybe Johnny Walker, if his chin holds up, if his chin somehow holds fucking up, or maybe he utilizes the wrestling, whatever the fuck it may be, okay? Bringing in a fucking priest himself in the goddamn Bible to be able to protect Johnny Walker. Whatever can get him to be able to survive those 3 rounds, okay? There are chances for Johnny Walker to get it done. There's a reason why Zhang Mingyang isn't some over minus 500 favorite, okay? It's kind of fucking reasonable here. But I just think Zhang Mingyang, he's too explosive, he's too fast, he's unproven on the ground, yes, but and this isn't any big ank though, and this isn't fucking flyweight. This is the light heavyweight division, and it's Johnny Walker. It's just a favorable matchup for him. Johnny Walker is comedically chinny, especially at this stage in his career. And Zhang Mingyang, he's the younger fighter, and I understand that he doesn't have, you know, the height and the reach advantage here, but he has so much high output on the feet. He has so much fucking power, and I feel like ultimately I see a round 1 or 2 comedic KO coming from Zhang Mingyang. I really don't have too much to break down about this fight, simply because it's kind of fucking simple here, okay? Johnny Walker is chinny, maybe wrestle, striking okay, but top 10, maybe he survived, but Zhang Mingyang, big power, big punch. He knock out Walker. Like, I'm breaking this shit down like a fucking caveman, okay? I'm going with Zhang Mingyang via a round 1 or 2 knockout here. And that is going to be it for the full card predictions and breakdown. Now y'all know what time it is. It's time for the blanks of the card. We got the underdog of the card, the locks of the card, the wild card of the card, and my card rating. All of them are self-explanatory, but I'll get to each one as I get to it. Starting off with the underdog of the card, okay? Which of my underdog picks am I the most confident in getting this one done? Now, the only underdogs I believe I picked on the card were Waldo Cortes-Acosta and Nurgozhay. So keeping between the fact that I really don't know too much about Nurgozhay and the fact that Waldo Cortes-Acosta, who I'm very familiar with, is my only other pick here for underdogs, that's who I'm going to be going with as my underdog of the card, okay? This isn't what I'm super confident in. This is literally, like I was saying, it's a lot of it is gut feeling vibes or just believing in the plot armor, but I feel like stylistically and skill-wise, he does have enough to get this one done, and again, I'm not working with much here, so plus 200 is what I'm seeing right now for Waldo Cortes-Acosta. He's my underdog of the card, okay? And he is one of the underdogs of the card that has won me before. He was my underdog of the card for UFC 316 against Spivak, and he won, so maybe he'll be able to do it twice. Moving on up next to my locks of the card. Which of these motherfuckers do I believe are not losing? We did really rough with the locks last week. I didn't even know my locks could go so rough, because usually I'm kind of fucking good with it. Usually over the 95 percentile range, but I got him fucked last week. I picked Kaya Sakura for one of them, and I forgot who the other one was, but it was fucked, okay? Zhang Mingyang is going to be one of my locks of the card here. Zhang Mingyang, who I'm going with in the main event. Tayalake Sasuke, the Super Saiyan Nurgozhay, however the fuck you say it, the Super Saiyan. He's going to be another one of my locks here as well. Yizha, I don't know how to pronounce it. Yizha is also going to be another one of my locks here. I'm tempted to go with Rongzhu. I'll throw Rongzhu on here for the fuck of it. So those are going to be my 4 locks. I'll throw Rongzhu on here. I got 4 locks for this card, and I believe that these motherfuckers are not going to be losing here, okay? Moving on to the wild card of the card. Who's somebody that's kind of being overlooked or overshadowed that has a chance to be able to get this one done and really shake up the rankings, okay? Someone that's not being picked enough, somebody that's being overlooked. But if they do win, man, it will really shake shit up. I'm going to go with Brian Ortega, to be fucking honest here. Brian Ortega, I feel like people forget, man. He is kind of a solidly big underdog. A lot of people are going with Sterling. I feel like Ortega does have the sense. Maybe we are just kind of overlooking him. I personally don't think that's the case, but fucking maybe, man. It does kind of have that sense in the air. Maybe we're forgetting how good Brian Ortega is, okay? So there's a reason why this guy almost choked out Volk. Who the hell knows? Brian Ortega is going to be my wild card of the card. In my card rating, what am I going to rate this card from 1 to 10? Now, keep in mind, I rate the fight nights a lot kind of lighter than the pay-per-views. If I was going to give a pay-per-view a 5 out of 10, of course it's going to be a better card than a 5 out of 10 fight night. You know what I'm fucking saying. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. I like this fight night, man. I feel like the main event could be better, and I feel like the main card, like the specific fights that they chose to have on it, a little questionable shit like that, like put Michelle Pereira or Charles Johnson, Loner Kavanagh a little higher, whatever the fuck, but in general, man, love the co-main event. The main card in general is solid, and the main event, again, it could be better, but it's not bad. It's a top 10, or I'm sorry, a top 15 light heavyweight scrap, probably going to end in a round 1 or 2 finish. It's going to be full fucking violence, so a couple things about this card that could be better. We have a lot of the road to UFC guys on here, so in terms of name value, it is kind of a weaker card, but there's just enough recognizability. Again, you have a Michelle Pereira, you have a Charles Johnson, you got Loner Kavanagh, and then, you know, a lot of guys in the main card. There's solid name value, and I feel like that, you know, I believe it was UFC Shanghai or Macau, whatever the fuck. UFC China last year was one of the best cards, or best fight nights of last year, so hopefully the energy delivers the same. It ended up being a great crowd. Hopefully it's the same. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10, okay? In terms of a fight night, it is pretty fucking solid. I dare say it's fucking good, okay? Thank you guys so very much for watching, man. Thank you guys so very much for giving me your time and attention. I really appreciate it. This is my full card predictions and breakdown for Shanghai. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Who are you going with? Who were your locks? Let me know your predictions in the comments below, and just let me know your thoughts in general. I would love to hear it. So all the smoke here. Thank you guys so very much for making this far in the video. Give me your time and attention. It means the fucking world to me. I endlessly appreciate it. Hope you guys have a good one. All the smoke here. Hope you have a good one, boys, and I will see you all next time.